This is the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. It's Thursday, January 26, 2023. It is 6:01 p.m. and first order of business is called to order by roll call. Linda Escobedo.
Present.
Mike Lawson.
Present.
Rich Feely.
Present.
Carrie LaFleur.
Present.
Keith Bergman. Present. All are present. We also have many folks with us from the Concord Housing Authority, and we have Ray Andrews from the FinCom. So welcome all. Next order of business is approval of minutes. I sent out a set of our draft set of minutes from our January 5th meeting yesterday. I don't know if folks have had a chance to look it over and if there are any amendments or whether there might be a motion.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Mike Lawson moves to approve, seconded by Rich Feely. Is there discussion? All right, then let's do a roll call on that motion. Linda.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
Carrie.
Aye.
And Keith. Aye. So that motion passes 5-0. Thanks very much. And I see Marcia Rasmussen is here, and I know she's got some time limit, and we're happy to have Marcia be able to attend the meeting, and she's going to talk specifically about the MBTA Communities interim plan. But I first want to say thanks to the Housing Production Plan team, which includes Marcia and Liz Rust and folks at JM Goldson and all of you on the call, on the select board and the planning board as well, for the great news that the state has approved the plan, that the Department of Housing and Community Development has issued a letter to the Board of Selectmen saying that our updated housing production plan is now approved. It has an effective date of December 21, 2022. It's good for 5 years, so it will expire December 20, 2027. So all of you put that date in your tickler files so that we'll remember what we did and remember what things we're working on 5 years from now when we grade ourselves on how it went. So congratulations to everyone. It was a great team effort. And I hope we can keep the band together as we, begin to move forward in the coming months and years on implementing the plan. So thanks all for your good work. And among the strategies that was included in the now approved housing production plan was for considering the MBTA community zoning for multifamily. And one of the sort of prerequisites to be able to continue to consider it is filing of a interim plan under MBTA community zoning, which has a deadline of January 31st. And I had two over the weekend was the Massachusetts Municipal Association annual convention in person for the first time since COVID. And I believe it or not, everyone was talking about MBTA communities. And so we're not alone. And I was asked where was Concord's plan by one DHCD official, and I said, "Oh, I'm sure we're working on it," and happy to report that. And what I also want to add is that I had what I will call a quick conversation with the new Lieutenant Governor, Kim Driscoll, who I've known for a while, worked with through MAPC and Mass Housing Partnership and other things. And I shared with her the heavy lift that MBTA Communities was going to be for communities and like Concord. And she immediately said, "What can we do to help? How can we make it better?" And I relayed that message to Kerry promptly and said that this is an opportunity. She asked for our contact information for follow-up conversation about that. So that's a real opportunity. And so with that introduction, Marcia, thanks for being here, and happy to hear whatever update you have on MBTA Communities Interim Plan.
All right. Well, two things are happening. Elizabeth Hughes, town planner, submitted an application to MHP to see if we could have their assistance in reviewing a plan and preparing zoning for the MBTA communities. The action plan itself is a rather it's an easy lift in terms of the information that we need to provide up front. One of the things that we did today with the town manager is sit down and talk about dates, because that's kind of a critical piece, making sure that we hit those dates along the way. And so Elizabeth is completing the plan, and we'll be able to submit it tomorrow. So we're on task to meet the deadline, be in before the deadline, and look forward to. We've identified both with the West Concord area and the Thorough Depot Business District as two potential locations for the MBTA communities, and either adapting current zoning that we have in place for our Industrial Park A and West Concord industrial districts, or looking at a new overlay, which is what the Thorough Business District could be modified to be a 40R. So those are the two approaches that we're taking here. Any questions?
Sounds great. Any questions from the floor? I think that's a great update. I think we're heading in the right direction, and this keeps us moving forward. And I guess what I would say to all of us is that I think that if there's the opportunity for Concord to say, look, this is in the spirit of the MBTA community zoning, this is what we think we can do, but this is what we think we need to help support that effort. And whether it's infrastructure or policy consideration from state agencies or whatever it might be, I see it as an opportunity for a real partnership between the town and the state. It's something the state wants to do, and I think that this. I felt that way about the last administration, but I feel even more so about the current administration, that they're going to be working with the cities and towns to figure out how to do it, and we want to be figuring that out on our part. So thanks very much, Marcia, for that update. Rich.
Quick question, Marcia. What is the schedule for actually acting on the changes in those two districts?
Well, it's doing research and evaluating things, and outreach. So that's the first piece, and that would start. Again, we haven't heard back from MHP about whether they are available, but we're anticipating from February 1st to say June 1st to do the initial outreach component, then to begin drafting the zoning that would then be discussed in a public forum. There'd be public outreach and so forth, so that it would be prepared by January 1st, 2024, when usually the warrant closes for annual town meeting. It would be adopted, hopefully, at annual town meeting 2024, and approved by the Attorney General's office by the fall, or if not sooner. So that's the time frame that we're looking at. If I could add, one of the things they ask is, what is there besides the housing component that is of concern? And so when we're talking about the two train stations, maintaining a vibrant, walkable commercial district around both train stations is important to the community, as is ensuring that any development is sustainably constructed, respectful of the natural environment, provides diverse housing opportunities and options, and is accessible to all. And another critical consideration is the impact on the town's aging infrastructure and capacity limitations related to the wastewater treatment plant, which cannot be adequately addressed without state and federal action. So that's going to be specifically in our plan, and hopefully that the state will take notice and provide some support.
Great,
That-
thank you.
Yeah, that's great. And those just are the sort of asks that, when the lieutenant governor says, how can we help? That's right on the top of the list of things that we ought to feel free to ask for. So thanks again. Stephanie.
Marcia, does the plan itself that's due tomorrow actually delineate dollars, or just talks about the broad asks?
No, it's just broad asks. It's an overall concept of how you're going to get to the finish line.
And then what's next then for you? Will they say, oh, we're very interested in these three things in your, in your report or in your document? Like what can we expect next, or what do we hope for next?
Well, we're hoping that we get some funding from the Mass Housing Partnership to help us with the outreach and education and the public conversation about all of this, and then help with the actual zoning. How do we make this work for the community?
Great. And I know that MAPC is a resource that could be tapped as well for technical assistance and other things. So that's, so I'm sure we can help get the resources necessary to address this. So great. Thank you. Any other questions or Mike Lawson?
Just very quickly, Marcia, one time we were wrestling with the MBTA about handicap access at the depot. Is that anything we can get their attention on, or?
I think
choke up now.
it's an ongoing conversation. I don't know.
Okay, thanks.
Maybe Linda could write a note, and when the state legislators are at the select board meeting on Monday night, that our new legislators, the state reps, Simon Cataldo and Carmen Gentile, are both new to representing Concord in the state legislature. So they could be brought up to speed on the long list. So great. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so thanks again, Marcia. We have on the agenda, we have a number of things to talk about implementing the housing production plan, section on sources of funding for the trust. And towards the end, we have use of trust funds. But since we've got a big crowd here from the Concord Housing Authority, and I didn't say at the beginning of the meeting, but would be my hope that I know some of our folks here, our members, can only stay till 7 at the latest. So I want to try to get our meeting done in an hour. So if there's indulgence with everyone else, I think we'll take the Concord Housing Authority up as the next item for discussion. And we had a request for some for $50,000 in seed funding for the development of a new affordable one-bedroom handicapped accessible home at Authority property located at 1031 Main Street in West Concord. So the letter came from Rick. Are you the spokesperson on this?
Yeah, I would think so.
Welcome all of you.
Thank you. Thank you for pushing us forward. If you'd like me to share the screen, I could just run through the.
Sure, see if you can. If you can't, I'm able to do it here. So,
Let's see. I think it's going to let me.
yep, there you go.
So you've probably all seen our oh, that's your agenda. That's not. You've probably all seen our request for funding, and you just described it yourself.
Yep.
This property is located on Main Street in West Concord. This is off of the GIS site, so it's a little colorful. And then, but this is Main Street running up to Concord in this direction, crossing Route 2, and down to West Concord in this direction, crossing the river here. This is Concord Green. This is the train line. And our little property is on the opposite side of the street from where that little two-family house was done by Habitat not too long ago. So looking closer at that property, this is Main Street again, West Concord in this direction, Concord Center and Route 2 are in this direction. Concord Green's entrance is here, and our house that we currently own, two-bedroom house, is here. Has a garage behind it. It looks like this, existing house, existing garage. And what we're proposing is to keep the existing house and replace the garage with a new little house that would just be a one-bedroom handicap unit. Essentially an accessory dwelling on the property, but not being applied for under accessory dwelling zoning because we are not an owner occupant of our existing house. So we would probably use the same zoning rules that we use to get the Commonwealth Avenue house approved, which is we do a tiny little planned residential development, which exempts us from almost every rule in the zoning and just allows the project to be considered and commented on and approved if people like it. So we would take out the garage, put in 3 parking places, presumably a handicap space for the house. And this Staffordshire Lane is a private way off of Main Street. So we've been in touch with the Concord Village condominium up here just to see if they have any concerns with us changing our use of our access to that private way. And that's kind of the basics, and I'm happy to answer questions.
So Rick,
Yeah.
if I may,
Yeah,
Oh,
Linda.
you just mentioned you've been in contact with them. Have you heard back from them yet?
I think they're going to attend our meeting next Thursday, our public meeting, regular meeting next Thursday, where this project's on the agenda. Talk about, so they'll get an introduction to it, and then it's assuming someone from the board, I emailed the 5 board members, assuming someone appears, they'll maybe ask questions, maybe, so it's just our initial contact with them.
Okay.
Rich.
Yeah, Rick, my question is sort of twofold, but one is that we know the experience with getting a $700,000 bid for the little house there on the edge of the Giroux property. I gather this would be a little smaller, but not much smaller. Can it be built for less? And then my question is, would you need, for whatever it takes to build it, would that all come from the trust, or are there other sources of funding that could supplement the trust? I mean, I'm all in favor of it. My only issue is essentially cost effectiveness in terms of getting the maximum number of units in town. So that's my question: cost of building and source of funds.
So, so our thinking is that we would take a shot at building it ourselves again, even though we failed to build Commonwealth Avenue ourselves because it was too expensive. The house would be significantly smaller almost half the size of the 2-bedroom house at on Commonwealth. So the thinking there is that smaller project, half the size, with any luck, the projected $700,000 total project costs on Commonwealth Avenue would get back into the 500s, which hopefully would be appealing to funders as a reasonable amount of money to spend on affordable house on the housing index for Concord. And then, of course, our backup plan would again be to put it out for an RFP for nonprofits to build themselves and turn over as a condominium and then sell as a affordable house that way. So that we use the same backup plan. And in terms of whether we would get funding, where we would get funding from, we probably work with Liz Russ to get funding from wherever we could. Hopefully multiple sources, so it's shared. And we'd also appreciate any input from the town as to where they think we should get funding from. Community preservation is an option. The Housing Trust is an option. And then, of course, we'd go for home funds again, maybe as we did last time. And maybe since we got some last time and didn't use it, we might be have some luck getting home funds again.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Rick, what's the square footage of the smaller house?
So I think it would be in the 600 square foot range, six to 7. I think the concept for the house would be that it would essentially fall into the accessory dwelling rules, which would be under 750 square feet. I think it could be, under 700 actually. But the concept for going through approvals, that it would be essentially like people are allowed to do if they were owner occupied. But since we're not, we're doing something very similar through a different process.
And just built on a slab?
I would think it would be slab on grade because it does need to be wheelchair accessible. So that would be an easier way to do it. Since there's no need for, very little need for utility room, maybe another reason not to have a basement or a need for a basement. So I would think it would probably be on a slab, but we'd have to see as it gets designed what the designers.
Other questions? One that I had is if we're going to be talking later in our meeting agenda about a formal, we're redoing our guidelines and regulations, and actually are going to be, I hope to explore with town staff. I've already mentioned it to Carrie, that it'd be helpful if there were if the trust could get a similar administrative support that, say, the Community Preservation Committee has. They have a system when applying for affordable town funds for affordable housing, which I think we could parrot pretty easily. And I'd like to also involve town staff in doing, if it works out, to do the intake. So if someone's applying for a grant application to us or to the CPC, what if they could actually do it one stop? So we're right in the middle of redoing our process, but what I'm hoping we'd be able to do is give a vote of approval support tonight. And that would be subject to, I'm thinking, some kind of a simple agreement. Many affordable housing trusts, we've only given money once, and we had it, and was for the in a big way, and during our time was for the Assabet River Bluff, and that was in a mortgage instrument that was recorded in the registry. Looking for something much simpler between the trust and the authority to just have some simple understanding of what the $50,000 would be spent on, reporting back requirements and so forth. So we're still working on those things, but I don't want it to delay our enthusiasm for supporting your request for something that's, well, in the housing production plan. That I think one of the things that we're going to be doing as we get applications for funding, and what I've even tried to do with posting tonight's agenda is, if the subject matter pertains to something in the housing production plan, we should say so, because it's like putting a big gold star after it as being something that is important. If there's, and I guess I just put that out to the trust. Are we okay? Would we be okay with a vote of support, subject to some instrument being drawn up? Let's say memo instrument goes too far. Some kind of a memorandum of understanding between the trust and the housing authority, which we'd need to have someone else draft up for us, but it would allow us to go forward.
Yeah, I wonder if we even, I'm not sure we need to involve lawyers here. I would think one of us and somebody from the housing authority could sit down and draft an MOU and,
Yeah, I really want to have staff do that, because I don't, and the trust can say otherwise, but but if we can't have staff do this, then I'm just.
I think we can finesse it in the vote. I'm just saying if staff or.
We can provide direction, but I just don't think that we're going to be getting into millions of dollars pretty soon of being asked for, once our balance goes to 3 million after town meeting. We're going to need some serious town staff support for administering this function. And Linda?
So, as evidenced by the conversation we're involved in right now, I guess, yes, I want to applaud the CHA for their initiative on this, and how far along they're already moving. But I think we need some internal discussions ourselves about a number of things, including looking at the known activity that's already on this agenda, or maybe the select board agenda on Monday night or whatever. And I think we need to among ourselves just take stock of where we are, and then get back to the CHA as quickly as we can, because certainly there's a lot of merit to what they're trying to accomplish here. And I would hope that there would be home funds and some other serious funds that can go into this as well, whether it's CPC or home funds or other combination. Yeah.
Thanks, Linda. Other comments from members? Mike or Carol?
I'm actually willing to go ahead with the 50,000 subject to the drafting of an MOU. And my only concern would be that the documents produced, if the resulting structure is too expensive, would be available to, a nonprofit to build in the way that Rick described. This is, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money. One way or the other, we already got the land, and we can, one way or the other, somebody can build on it, hopefully CHA. So, I'd like to get this going, and I'd be willing to vote tonight subject to approval of an MOU by the trust.
And the MOU would also include whether or not the condo association is going to allow additional use on that lot, and without further complications that could put a different spin on the project.
Sure. And I'd support that too.
Carrie, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm in support of that as well. I mean, the CPC, there's not going to be another round of CPC funding for what, 6-8 months or so. I don't know what the timetable is for the home funds. I hope that this project will be in line for that. We returned a lot of unused home funds because of the Junction Village project. So good luck to you in getting home funds.
Right.
So, so what I'm sensing, we have that perhaps the appropriate motion would be to move that the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust vote to approve the Housing Authority's request for $50,000 for the stated purpose in your letter, subject to a execution of an agreement between the trust and the authority. Sounds pretty simple. Is there, would someone care to make that motion?
I move as you articulated.
Okay. So moved by Rich, second by Mike. Is there discussion? And there's no reason for us to delay. I mean, we can be in touch and, be working on this, and then ideally have a document to be executed at our next meeting. So that would be my hope.
Okay.
Any
So,
further-
yeah, with the opportunity for us to see it.
Yeah, we'll vote. You'll vote on. Yeah, you're not authorizing the chair to sign an agreement. You're saying that it's subject to the agreement being brought back to the trust and to
Yeah,
the
that's great.
authority for
great.
for approval. Is the authority okay with that? We want to move it forward, and we're so sorry. You've caught us with you've caught us between guidelines.
Maybe that's good.
Yeah. And so we're kind of feeling
Yeah,
feeling a little bashful. But
Just a couple quick
definitely.
comments too, as I was listening to this. I think there are two points. One is, the home is unique in that it's little. I don't think that's necessarily, it may be more unique for Concord, but not necessarily for other parts of the country. And then the other thing that sticks with me is that it's an ownership model, that it involves somebody actually owning a home, which I think is critically important to be able to own an affordable home.
Right. Our first goal is to build it ourselves and keep it as a rental, and our backup plan is to sell.
Very good. Okay, so with that motion ready for a vote. All right, so let's have a roll call. Linda,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
and Keith. Aye. So that motion passes 5-0. And let's be in touch about what a simple agreement would look like. It probably will have some boilerplate, like if you ever do anything there, you have to remind people where you got the money from. Or not necessarily to put our name out on a plaque on the corner, but not for this small money, but I appreciate your coming to see us for this, and know you won't be strangers, because we're working together on so many things these days.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
All the best.
Thank you. Edward.
Yeah, I just want to mention how wonderfully you shepherded the three housing, warrant items through the special town meeting that last week. I thought you did a really excellent job on that. And also, as far as the problems with the Giroux House, there's a perception in the town that we have failed to create the house that is now being built by Habitat, and I was in a meeting with some vets and they were saying, oh, this is a problem when it happened. So I had to kind of defend that we really were made a success out of what we did, even though we had to fight the inflation that's been going on in our society. But anyway, my point is, I think you, Keith, did such an excellent job. I think we're on a really good pathway.
Thank you. Well, it helps to have great material too. I mean, there's been so much work that's been done on the funding for the affordable housing in Concord over so many years. Happy to be carrying the torch by our group, and very glad to have the support, the united support of all the housing entities for moving in the right direction. And I know we're going to need that as we go forward with implementing the housing production plan and doing so much. So we appreciate your continuing to work with us on that. Great, thanks very much. I'm going to move back to a discussion about housing production plan implementation, and probably just have a brief discussion that at our last meeting on January 5th, we started talking about housing production plan implementation, and reached the consensus, at least among our group, that it looked like the next that the Concord Housing Roundtable would be a good opportunity to hear from the various housing, what I'll think of as the expanded membership of the Concord Housing Roundtable, on what progress those entities are making on the housing strategies that are assigned to many of us by the housing production plan that was just approved by the state, and that and so we're sort of continuing that. I was looking to continue that discussion tonight, and a particular ask, and to prepare, and I keep fielding inquiries from folks, including some on this call, about what are the next steps with implementation of the housing production plan. The trust, of course, is not the housing production plan implementer, but it is I think one of the moving forces here, and with respect to the Concord Housing Roundtable, that continuing that and sponsoring that and moving that ahead is a strategy that's assigned to the trust and to town staff. So I think that's why we're maybe have particular ownership of, all right, well, what are we going to do with the next housing production plan? And so I prepared what I hoped would be a simple spreadsheet today of just taking the housing production plan document, and I'm not going to put it up here, but I had forwarded on, I think, to most of you, that the housing production plan strategy around the housing roundtable adds 3 groups who have not been involved officially before, and those 3 are the select board, the planning board, and the community preservation committee, who each have are signed by the plan, tentatively perhaps, particular goals, just as the trust has, and the housing authority, the CHDC, and others. So my particular ask to staff, and I know we've our usual players, Liz and Marcia, were not able to be on the call, but I want to follow up that I think it would be helpful even before the housing production, the Concord Housing Roundtable meeting, which we're hoping could be in mid-March, that I think it would be useful for the staff to assemble us to go over the list of who's assigned what, and just make sure everyone's okay with that, because I've already heard some pushback from some people that thought that maybe certain boards were overloaded, I'm not, you know, anything I send out isn't making assignments. It's just transcribing what's in a plan that's been approved by the select board and planning board. But plans, you know, plans are not static documents. And I think that as we now move to the stage of asking other entities to implement, you know, be responsible for leading steps to implement the plan, I think it's not unreasonable to have those folks, you know, our groups gathered together and say, is everybody okay with what their role is and understanding? And it's not only leadership on particular strategies, but that many of us are in a support status, that, you know, there is a, for example, a Concord Housing Authority goal, but with others of us as in a support capacity for that. So and just as we have some, the trust has goals where we've got support coming from select board or CHDC or the CPC or the planning board. And so it's not as simple, it doesn't look simple on paper, and it's not as simple as it might look on a sheet like this. But this looks like the puzzle I was solving at 5:30 this morning as my wake up exercise. But I'm hoping that as we move forward, I think we just need to do a check-in with the you know, select board, planning board, all the housing groups, CPC, DEI commission, and the support staff, just so that we're all on the same page about how this big thing moves forward and what kind of time expectations are there, so that when we get to a meeting of the housing roundtable, there's no missed connections. It's no one saying, well, gee, I thought you were going to do that, or I didn't realize that was mine. I'm already feeling that that's an important preliminary step, just from some feedback I've been getting. And so anyway, so that's, I think, as much of a point as I want to make about it tonight, and I want to have the chance to and for me, I mean, I'd be happy as to and I know there's interest in members of the Housing Production Plan Steering Committee, still hearing from some members who are not on this call tonight. So we have a constituency, and it's all going to be about, I think, constituency building as we move forward with some measures to town meeting, and working together as a cohesive unit and as a coalition of groups, I think is going to be essential to getting some of the measures, some of the more important measures in this plan passed at town meeting. So we don't want to misstep. Any comments at all on that? I'll be happy to follow up and get back to folks. The next item we have is speaking of updating the housing production plan, is updating our trust interim policy guidelines to reflect the updated housing production plan. When we adopted as we mentioned on January 5th, that our interim guidelines essentially require us to update them once the housing production plan is updated. And Rich, you are time sensitive now.
I'm about to turn into a white mouse. My suggestion would be, if it's permissible with the rules of public meetings, that all the members send me markups, and then I will provide a markup that is hopefully comprehensive for consideration at the next meeting.
Yeah, and I'd say that is, to my understanding, allowable. Rich has prepared an initial draft of what some guidelines might a revised set of guidelines might look like. All the members have it, and if members with comments send those directly to Rich for him to get back to us as a group for our next meeting, that would be an appropriate way to do it. I would like to follow up, and maybe this discussion can be with staff as well. On January 5th, we had expressed a desire to have, to work on a formal application process, and one guide for that is the community preservation, important guide, the Community Preservation Committee's guidelines or handbook, or which hopefully we could replicate for and amend for our use. So I'll be happy to try to have a discussion with staff about that.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, I mentioned it's now called a procedural manual that has the actual application and directions for how to complete that application. But yeah, I think that's a good starting point.
So, I mean, ideally, and what I didn't get into it much earlier, but I think it would be important that, I mean, frankly, I'd like to know when a housing entity is applying to both the CPC and us for the same project. Simple, and because we don't know right now. And what's more, I'd like the applicants to know that maybe there's one place that they can go, and we will be aware, everyone will be aware of what applications are going to, multiple town entities for housing funding. I think it's an important way for us to coordinate what we're doing, and the staff support that I see the Community Preservation Committee needing for the millions of dollars that it administers is something we really need to have for the $1 million that we're, at least in the short term, going to be able to be administering. Mike?
In addition to the CPC documents, which will be useful, there's lots of housing trusts around, and they must have procedural policy statements that we might get a hold of as some guidance as we craft ours.
Yeah, I have a virtual meeting with the chair of the Sudbury Municipal Affordable Housing Trust on what is today, Thursday? So
Yes.
on tomorrow morning. He also happens to be one of our state reps, Carmen Gentile. Ran into him on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. I live not that far from the Sudbury line, and I reintroduced myself and said I was a constituent and was the Housing Trust chairman. He said, "Hey, me too." So we'll see if there are some resources, and we're also plugged into the Mass Housing Partnership, which which provides guidance for trust, so we can be looking at those. Great, thank you. And let's see, on the subject of sources of funding for the trust, obviously the special town meeting last week approved the 2 home rule petitions for to fund the trust with a real estate transfer fee and a building permit surcharge, and we're grateful for the voters' support again of that. We're also on our radar screen also is the LOHA, local option for, I forget what its acronym stands for housing affordability. That's it. They have refiled a statewide local option for a real estate transfer fee. Interestingly, now their bill last year had said up to 150, that the funds could be used for up to 150%, 175% of AMI, And there was an early draft this time out that was maybe it was going to be 240%. And I raised with them, I was on the, Rich and I were on the Zoom call a week or so ago, I raised with them something someone said, well, those percentages, of course, that you can't spend more than what you otherwise could with under your housing trust, unless you get a special act of the legislature. Which said, well, that came as news to me. I may have come to news to others, but I said, well, I said, there's nothing. The Mass Housing Partnership says that affordable housing is undefined under the trust, and maybe it means 100% under CPA, or it means 120% under another state statute, and we're filing home rule legislation for 150%. But the bottom line is that the LOHA bill will not have a percentage of AMI in there, because it frankly can't apply. Even if it was written in there, it couldn't apply unless the community adopting it had other authorizing legislation. So anyway, it's still worth our, even at the end of the day, if we can't do more than 100 or 120%, I think we'll be, and if our home rule petition doesn't pass, I think we'll be glad to have a steady stream at whatever percentage of AMI the legislature is happy to give to us. So we will be in touch with that. And then for the future, there are two articles on the annual town meeting warrant. Carrie, will the warrant be available online soon? I know it was going to the printer this week. Didn't know if it might be uploaded to have voters take a peek at it at the website.
It will be available sometime next week. We don't post it until we get the proof back from the printer.
Okay, great. All right, well, that's great. And then they'll be preparing for the series of public hearings that are coming up, and seeing for sure what else is in the warrant. Lastly,
Keith, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Before you move on.
Yeah.
My recollection is that with respect to the home rule petitions, that the select board has to act to submit those to the legislature.
Yeah.
So I don't see it on their agenda for Monday, but I hope it can get on an agenda quickly.
Well, it's already yeah, that's probably a backup. Just to, it's already has docket numbers assigned to it, and the two legislators have already co-sponsored the legislation and filed it on our behalf. So it would just be us, the select board, catching up with what got done immediately after town meeting.
Right, yeah, because the town meeting vote merely authorizes the select board to file. A town meeting has no standing to file it on their own. So if the select board could take a vote.
The deadline to file was Friday, so they did get filed.
Right, no, I know that. And in fact, for the home rule petitions, whenever the community gets around to filing them, they're fileable. We filed, I know Concord has filed them in May. In prior years when you have an annual town meeting, but because it's a home rule petition, though, I think there's somewhere along the line, the clerk of the House or Senate is going to want to see when the Board of Selectmen voted to send it up. So,
yeah.
All right, very good. And
the fossil fuel ban, further ban on further fossil fuel was also filed with a docket number. So the select board just needs to catch up with what got done. Yeah. Very
good. Thank you. And then the last item is that I've been in touch with CHDC Chair Lee Smith. We will schedule a time at one of our meetings in March to hear from CHDC about Assabet River Bluff. Even before then, for those interested, CHDC is going to be at the select board meeting on Monday night to bring to the select board that the Junction Village communication that we all saw. There's interest in at least one developer in the property, and the CHDC, I think, is preparing to accelerate their timetable for Junction Village, probably by moving up when they would have otherwise issued an RFP. But we'll be looking for some feedback from the select board before just, you know, running forward to know that what this developer at least is proposing is something that the select board might be happy to see. So that continues. Is there public comment? Okay. Thank
I'd like to make
Charles.
just an observation. I've been involved in housing, affordable housing for a long time in this town. And I'm very pleased to see that there's a level of professionalism now that we now seem to have. All the agencies working together and sharing information that I hadn't seen in past years. So I just want to say, Keith, in particular, for your leadership, that I feel a lot better about our prospects, shall we say, for really getting some things done.
Well, thanks, Charles. And it's just so great to be working with all of the agencies here. I feel like we've just got a great team to work together, and we're going to have to work on. We're going to have on the big things. We're going to have a tag team at the microphone at town meeting it'll be, you know, rapid succession of why the things we're bringing here are really, you know, too good to pass up. So look forward to that. And that includes zoning, by the way, you know, the heavy lift on the thing that's going to produce the most housing for the least amount of money is zoning, regulatory changes. And we need to just be so supportive of what's being done, and part of the team, I think, when those zoning matters come up at town meeting in the future. So thank you all. Thanks for your work and support. We appreciate it. Our next meeting, I'm thinking we should probably meet in a couple of weeks. I don't know if we're in a position to look at calendars and say what might work. I guess I'm looking at Carrie, because it's like when Carrie can meet that's the universe of when it's safe for us to try to meet. And we're heading into busy season if we weren't there already. I know.
Keith, are you looking at the week of February 5th?
Let's see. The week of, that week.
How about Wednesday, the 8th?
Wednesday, the 8th, at from 6 to 7. Is that good to limit us?
I can do earlier that day.
Okay.
I feel bad keeping everybody out so late, but
I took a nap this afternoon. So. What does it look like for folks? Could you do what, like 4 o'clock?
I can do 5. 5.
5, okay.
Yeah, 5 would work. I have a hard stop at 7 for another meeting.
Okay, so we would do next meeting would be Wednesday, February 8th at 5 PM.
Mhm.
Very good. Okay. Think we're ready to adjourn. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Keith, may I just
Yeah.
add, we had so much to cover today and we always do, but if we can just allow a little bit more time for discussion in the agenda, it would really be helpful, I think.
Sure,
Some of
yeah,
the-
I'd be happy to, yeah, I really
some of the-
apologize that we.
Some of
we
the
only
agenda
had six-
items will lend themselves to that anyway, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it had been 3 weeks since we'd met at all, and there's
No, I
so
know.
much going on.
Exactly. Not
but,
being critical, I'm just making a suggestion.
Yeah, now that we've touched bases with all that's going on, I think we can probably focus the next couple of meetings on specific things.
Linda's right, but today's meeting agenda really got us to, organize and lay out pretty clearly what's coming down the road here. So I think that was a pretty useful structured agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So, all right, so very good. A motion by Mike to adjourn, the second by, was that Linda, did I hear?
Sure.
Okay. All right, and we'll have a roll call on that motion. Linda,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Carrie, and Keith. Aye, so that's 4-0, unanimous vote. It is 7:02. Which is pretty close to an hour. All right, so well done, all of us, for getting so much done in such a time, and we will see you again, and thanks all.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.